This Old Gamer is paid for by contributions by viewers like you and by money for junk and junk for money at Hank's Auto Salvage and Repair. Hundreds of options in one lot. Find the part you need and we'll make it happen. Just remember, Hank's had nothing to do with that man's death. That was under different ownership, and the area is no longer under investigation. That's Hank's. Look for the crane with Old Glory attached to it. Hank's Auto Salvage and Repair. Money for junk, junk for money. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Cities with John. I'm This Old Gamer, and I am thrilled to have you along for the ride today, as we are all set for Downtown episode number 9. Hard to believe, it's episode 9 already. This series has really flown along, and if you didn't see it already, I have a special episode posted. A 3-function, multi-function bridge is up and running, and Yes, that's right, officer. This multifunction bridge connects road, train, and a pedestrian walkway all on one bridge. So, interesting episode. Check it out. It's kind of like a tutorial, kind of like a how-to, and kind of like a show featuring a mod talking smack to me. You just have to watch it. It's a lot to explain. But while you're at the channel, why don't you subscribe and come along for each and every episode of Cities with John. I'm just so glad to have you today, and thanks for watching. We are working on residential today because we need some residential area along this coastline of downtown. And this is going to be a special residential area. This is going to be a little bit higher end residential. This is not going to be like the Lower Canals or Robin Park. It is going to be some very high end, very expensive buildings and things of that nature. A lot of beachfront properties. So this was the initial idea behind downtown, and we got most of it right. The office on the right there is mostly commercial, so maybe we didn't get much of this right. Nevertheless, we are all set for episode 9. So I did a little fixing of the network. I kind of connected the parkway that takes you through downtown and onto the colorful bridge. And by the way, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we have this tram line running underneath the interstate, right down the center of the interstate. It's kind of a neat little feature of downtown. And we're going to be putting some businesses along that on a future episode. But today is all about the residential. So kind of my idea behind this is let's make a little bit of a loop around this bridge. And with this loop, we will kind of make a center point and make our buildings, our residential buildings, face the middle of that circle. And it's kind of more of an oval actually. But this is going to be our center point for our downtown residential. Where are these people going? Where did they come from? What? Okay, well, we'll catch up with them later, I'm sure. So I downloaded a lot, I subscribed to a lot of different assets to complete this downtown residential area. There was quite a few that I passed up and quite a few that I'm not using. One thing that is tricky about when you're setting up a downtown is there is lots and lots of options, but not all the buildings correlate well with each other. Some are just gigantic. And as much as we will have some really big buildings downtown. I didn't really want to put it as part of this residential area. I wanted to kind of keep this higher end and a little bit on the smaller side. And a lot of these have multiple colors. So as you can see, I just was throwing them down all over the place, just trying to find a couple that match. So we had 2 on one side that were one color and 2 on the other side. And this right here is a really cool residential building that we're going to put right here on this corner. And we will come back to that one a little bit later on. Probably later on, as in not on this episode. We're really focused on this side of the road. So I'm trying to kind of break this up into 2 sections. One episode for this side of the road and one episode for the other side of the road. So I threw down that building over there just because I want to keep it. And sometimes you want to throw down a building just to make sure you remember using that building, or that you want to use that building. And sometimes I forget to use buildings. And here's something I've done a lot just to show you. To put a node in, just add a little road off to the side of whatever you're doing. So this little pedestrian road, I believe, it's under the road tab. I just kind of added a node in there, did it real quick. And I do that quite a bit. But the reason I do that is because when you add in a node, then you're able to kind of take that one section of your road or path or whatever the case may be and do something a little bit different. I kind of set down this little oval in a bit of a valley. It's kind of lower than where the buildings are. And we're going to be using some neat little things to make this look unique. I don't often build on hilly terrain like this. And a lot of times this map, Two Brothers Island by Sidai, is overall, I'd say it's flat. It does have some huge mountains in it, but there is a ton of flat terrain. So you have to kind of do some terraforming and do it yourself if you want to have a little bit of it. And here I am doing the node trick again, by the way. But you really have to set up the terrain. If you do want some hills, you have to kind of set it up yourself. So what we try to do here is we try to have this road at a little bit lower level. As you can see there, there's a bit of a hill, bit of an incline to get up to the buildings there. And that will set us up to be able to do something really neat with this setup. Instead of just a typical oval, we'll be able to do something fun. I think it's gonna look really cool when it's all said and done. So part of having a fancier looking higher end residential area, we're using this road with the brick sidewalks. I think that looks real nice. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to throw in a little bit of a wall. This wall is going to serve as a barrier for the incline. So we don't want the erosion to happen over time that would happen here. You have some big buildings that are grounded into the ground that they need a sturdy foundation, and we obviously wouldn't want that dirt to erode. Not that that is a function on the game. I'm completely making all this up, but that is the idea for the look and the design of this particular area. I picked these walls here. These are actually part of a wall pack that is I think they're called like mall walls. M-A-L. Whoa, look at all those people. They don't need stairs. They just go right up there. Well, I'm going to give you stairs anyway, folks. No, we don't want to use the pedestrian prop pack. We want to use just a good old-fashioned staircase. And voila. So we used the little procedure objects there. Got that staircase looking spick and span. And basically, you're going to see a lot of symmetrical design here. So everything that we do on one side of this, we're going to do on the other side. We're just going to kind of mirror it left and right. And I'm not going to show every little bit and piece of this, but we're going to mirror it back and forth, and that way you'll get to see, or you'll get a symmetrical look, I should say. Both sides of this oval will have a very similar look by design. So if you, when I say symmetrical, I'm adding the same props, the same decals on both sides, so they are basically a mirror image of each other in every step of the way. So here is the first part of using these slope network functions. So these slopes are just a fantastic newer addition on the workshop. I haven't seen them used all that much, but they are great for this exact situation. When you're needing to kind of have a hill come out to a certain point and then drop down like we're doing here, these slopes are just fantastic. I'll place a link in the description below for this this profile. These are called natural slope profiles. They are on the City Skylines workshop. They are by Deeheks, and these are just tremendous. So they basically function like a network. So once you place them down, you can use our best friend Move It to move them around however you want. And they usually will match just about any. They have them in concrete, they have them in grass, dirt, and there's actually some newer ones that I haven't really messed around with. These I have experimented with, but they allow you to do a lot of different things and really customize slopes and make something happen on the game that isn't really supposed to happen. So I've added these little brick walls, and I'm kind of thinking we might go with brick instead of, which one do you guys like more, brick or concrete? I kind of like these brick ones. They're kind of growing on me. So we are going to go ahead and start putting down some trees here, and we're just going to line up this brick wall with these trees, and you can see how that slope, it just goes right into the brick. So it looks like that the dirt goes all the way up to the brick, and there's a little bit of a dip there, but we're just going to hide that with some bushes and things here in just a moment. But again, these slopes by Deeheks are just tremendous. I really recommend getting them and just kind of experiment with them. Once you use them a couple times, just throw them out in the middle of your city somewhere away from everything just to kind of see how they function. They are really cool. I really like them a whole lot and highly recommend them. Alright, so I decided to go ahead and go with the bricks on both sides. So much for the mall walls. So we're just going to go with the bricks on both sides, and I think that actually looks better anyway. It kind of goes along with the brick sidewalks on this oval road, so I think that works well. So we're just copying and pasting from the other side, keeping that symmetrical theme going. We're just going to copy and paste using Move It. And keep in mind, just because you're doing it symmetrically, you don't have to use the exact same everything. So like, for example, I'm using very similar bushes, but I changed the color to red for the right side where I was using yellow on the other side. Well, the trains are zipping by here. This is going to be a busy area when it's all said and done, and I think it's really going to turn out really well. I think this has a really good setup for the rest of this residential area. Alright, so we have this little fountain here, and we're going to put some decals and kind of widen the sidewalk right next to this fountain. This will make for kind of a grand entrance to the staircase when people are going to their houses and their apartments. Just using, I talked a little bit about decals in the last episode. I try to keep the decals fresh and not use the same ones over and over again. I really do love this fountain. And there's not really all that many fountains on the workshop that are functional fountains. And trust me, I found out because I am a fountain fanatic in real life and on the game. I've always liked them since I was a little kid. My grandma had a fountain in her backyard, and I loved that thing for some reason. And ever since then, I've I've always had like a fountain. I got a fountain on my front porch right now. It's not plugged in and it's not doing anything, but hey, the weather's starting to get warm. Probably gonna have to put some water in it and get it going. Anyway, so we put these decals to kind of widen this up, and this is also going to serve as a place we can put some benches in for a nice place to sit. This will be a great place to wait for your taxi or your Uber, or a great place to hang out and people watch right next to the apartment. So we're going to use these PPG benches so that way people actually do sit in those benches, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just add a little trash can. We don't want trash sitting all over the place. We have a tree kind of sticking through the bricks there, but I might just leave that. It kind of looks cool. It looks like we have a little bit of overgrowth. So far so good, and those slopes really make it pop. Alright, so now we're going to add some bushes right here on top of this slope. So as I said, the slopes are not always going to work out perfectly, so you might have these little dips in there, and we have a little bit of a dip here that you can just barely see. But we're going to put a large amount of vegetation all around using these bushes, kind of throwing in a couple of different bushes there. We're just using like a regular bush and then throwing in some viney looking stuff, and it's all just kind of forming this elevated look that we're going for with the slope. And now, you know, instead of just being a hill, it is coming straight out to that brick wall and making for a very elegant looking design in front of these buildings. Now, these curbs I'm using here are the non-terraforming curbs. That means that you can take those curbs and using Move It, you can actually raise them up. Those are very handy for this kind of situation because a lot of times when you place a prop down on an incline, it just does not cooperate with you. So using these non-terraforming ones, you get a far better result than using just regular curbs. So this is exciting. We got a lot of pedestrians already using this pedestrian bridge. I was wondering if they were going to be using it much since there's lots of options to get across this intersection, but it looks like they are using it. What is going on? Okay, apparently we really messed up those invisible sidewalks. It's like Mary Poppins.
Perhaps it's a witch.
Alright, so let's go ahead. We're going to bring this over and make a little bit of an intersection underneath the interstate here. This will connect to the rest of this residential that we're going to be building in behind those 4 buildings there. So this is all going to kind of connect over to the rest of the map eventually, and this will probably end up connecting and being a major vein to, if you're not taking the interstate, this will connect to maybe like a 2-lane highway that will kind of go along the beach. So that's kind of just something I was scouting out as I was planning this episode and building this little area that I'm doing today. But we're going to connect it over next to the rail line and just kind of go right up into the mountains right along the beach there. But that's for a later day. So we're going to be putting in some more residential, and this is a nice little condominium that I think just fits in here perfectly. Yes, we could go for our gargantuan huge building here, but I'm going to save that for a little bit closer to the coast. Now here we are doing something that we did a lot in the Robin Park episode. This is a set of buildings that they kind of fit together well. So what we're doing is we're just going to take these buildings, kind of maneuver them ever so slightly just to kind of make them look like they're all one big building. And this will allow us to just kind of have a different look than just plopping one building down after another. It'll just become like one large building. Well, we don't want that one. Let's, yeah, here we go. There's what we need. So we will just connect that right on the corner there. And then we're just going to leave the end of this kind of open. And then here we're going to put a little bit of a larger building just as a center point to this corner. Now let's turn these condo buildings on their side. We can actually run a road in between these. We'll pull this pillar out here. Yeah, so we'll turn those on the side. That way we can fit one extra building in there. And we can actually put a road in between those just to connect all that. All right, so we're going to put in another one of these pedestrian roads. And this will connect right over here. And then we have a nice little opening here where we've changed up. We've added a few nodes where we have a bit of a gap there. As you can see, it'll make an excellent place to cross the street. So instead of just running that all the way to the end, we're just going to add these decals. We've already placed down an invisible sidewalk. We're just going to add these decals. This will kind of serve as a grand entrance to this pathway that connects over to the pedestrian road. Well, this is a pedestrian road, but it's all just going to kind of connect, but just changes it up a little bit. And then we can come back through and kind of add some fences around that and just kind of spruce it up a bit. All right, so we've got some more buildings, and keep in mind, you can kind of tell, I'm kind of keeping the same theme with these buildings. They all kind of have a colorful look, trying to stick with more modern looking. We're going to be building some more residential in some point in this series that will not all be modern, but this is definitely more of a modern part of the map. Maybe at one point or another there was some older apartments here, but those are now gone, and this is all very much newer properties. So there's a lot of fancier looking buildings, and we're also adding a lot of sidewalks behind every one of these buildings. A lot of these buildings also, well, basically every building comes with like a concrete pad around it. You can eliminate that and you could add to it using the surface painter. That will allow you to get rid of that concrete if you don't want it, or if you do want it, you can add it just like I did on that sidewalk, so it kind of reappears when it's not terraforming correctly. Just a quick tip for you. Moving right along, we have got a tremendous asset here on the corner. That is a really cool apartment building, residential building there. And now we're just going to kind of stick a little road in here, and this is going to kind of go into our next portion of this. And what I initially did is I had some bigger buildings right up against the boulevard there, closer to the beach, and kind of decided that they were a tad bit too tall. And there's one right there. So they kind of decided those are a little bit too tall, so we're going to move those in behind because it just really blocked the other buildings. But instead we are using some of these smaller condominiums, and you see a couple of the backs of them there have sunroofs in them and things. They look really cool. And these right here are just like single skinny little houses that they're just kind of like townhouses, and they work really well. They fit in here just perfectly. Now, the only problem with these are if you're playing the game, if you were playing this vanilla style and you're really worried about your ambulance service and trash service and all that, they're on a pedestrian road, so your emergency services and your death care, police, all that, they're not going to be able to reach these buildings. So they are going to be throwing up notifications left and right. But I'm not too worried about that because that's not really the style that I am playing in. I'm in design mode. That's cheating mode, straight cheating mode. Okie dokie. So here we are going to do a little bit of detailing around here. We have a volleyball court, And then we are also going to install a pool. Kids, we're getting a pool. And we're going to put it right here behind these buildings and add a courtyard of sorts. We went ahead and added a fence with a gate. And I'm going to kind of fly through some of these detailing aspects of things. We're just going to kind of add some trees, some palm trees, and just kind of have some pathways. We went ahead and put the invisible pathway down there so people will actually walk around that courtyard if they wish. I mean, it's not going to take them anywhere if they're coming from the street. And look at this. Speaking of coming from the street, it's the gang from earlier. They have quadrupled in size. They're coming back. So I guess there was no buildings. Now there's buildings, and now they are now they're coming back. I don't know where exactly they're going. Everybody's moving in. They're happy to see all these new residential spots. All right, so here we have a lake that I put down. This lake is just kind of a little smaller lake, and it's going to serve as kind of like a runoff to some of the buildings here. I'm using procedure objects to make kind of like these little pipes that are going to serve as like drain runoffs coming out of the dirt there. And this is kind of like one of those inner city lake type things. So we're using some muddy decals, and we're just going to put a little fence around here. And this will just kind of serve as a water drain off, little smaller version of a canal type thing in the heart of downtown. So when it rains real hard, the rain has somewhere to go, and it'll go into this lake. And this lake kind of just runs up in between the buildings on the side here, and it just forms like a really neat place to sit and watch and relax and enjoy the outdoors. Oh, we have breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. This old gamer is reporting that we have a police chase happening, and wait a minute, it seems like this police officer is pulling over another police officer. What is going on here? Border Patrol. That explains it. Well, good luck. Good luck, officer. See you later. All right, now we have this Oasis pool. This is actually from the Oasis Casino. I have not used this pool before in any of the casino builds from my previous series of the beach resort, but we're going to place it right here and put a little fence around it. Put these really cool palm trees just right in the middle of this pool, and then we'll add some decorations with these palm trees right along here. I'm going to come back through and put some planters under these trees so they don't look like they're growing out of the concrete, obviously. And then here we're going to put in a larger parking lot right next to the pool. This will serve as a parking lot for just about everybody that's around here. Of course, we do have the parking garages and street parking available as well, but we also want to have a parking lot right next to these residential spots. We'll just throw in a sidewalk, kind of connect this back door. It's all coming together. Speaking of parking lots, I realized that in the middle of this oval, we really didn't have anything, and I decided to go ahead and just put another parking lot in the middle of the oval. So the people that live in those 4 buildings, we're calling it the 27. That is the name of the condominiums, apartments that are right here around the oval. The 27, because they have 27 floors. That's why I called them the 27. Oh, where's my flying car button? Sound effect? Should have had one for the flying man too. So anyways, 27 floors is why we called it the 27. At least that's what I came up with in my brain. I don't know. Whatever. We used procedure objects and made a really cool sign that I posted on a few social media channels. Just called 502 Ripoff. Well, that about does it for episode 9 of this downtown series. I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. If you feel compelled, hit that like button for me. It helps me be seen by more viewers. And subscribe to my channel if you want some more content and wild police chases. I'll leave you with some cinematics, and let's take a look at the finished product from today. Well, I want to thank you once again for joining me for another episode of Cities with John. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed building it. Thanks for all my new subscribers and a lot of very, very kind comments as of late, and I really thank you for those comments. That's what drives me to continue making these videos. It's not easy, it's very time consuming, but I really enjoy it. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.